So it's time to have a look at my first initial Game Week 6 wildcard draft. And yes, that's right guys, I am personally playing the wildcard myself this week. And I've built two drafts. I've got one draft that has just Haaland and Saka but no Mohamed Salah in it. But then I've also got another draft that has Haaland, Saka and Mohamed Salah in the same wildcard draft. So with that being said, let's waste no more time and let's get straight into it. Alright guys, so before we do get into it, of course, this is just my first initial thoughts and this is not finalized. But with that being said, we'll go straight into the defense, and in the goalkeeper spot we still got that man David Raya, and for the back three we've got Konate, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Rico Lewis. Now I'm going to start speaking about the defense, and of course I've gone for Raya in goal because I just love the Arsenal defense. Arsenal still this season have been absolutely fantastic defensively and one of the best defenses in the league. Raya also seems to be getting a lot more bonus points than usual, which I've absolutely been loving at the start of this FPL season. He seems to be making a little bit more saves than he was last season. So overall, all in all, Arsenal defense is great. He's a good long-term set and forget keeper option. I won't have to, transfer him out or rotate him with any other goalkeeper unless he gets injured. So yeah, for me, I think Ray is absolutely fantastic, and the short-term fixtures are great, but like I said, he's there for the long term. So yeah, Ray for me is an absolute must-have in my opinion on wildcard, and he's the cheapest route into the Arsenal defense as well, and he's going to start week in, week out. So I do like that Ray pick, and I'll definitely be having him on wildcard. But let's talk about the back three, and as you guys can see, I've gone for double Liverpool defense. Now this may be a controversial one, however I do want you guys to consider the fact that I've actually got 2 free transfers, right? So I've taken 2 free transfers into this wildcard, so after I use the wildcard I'll be left with 2 free transfers, right? So I just want you guys to bear that in mind. But yeah, I've gone for double Liverpool defense because look, I'll be honest, Liverpool 4 clean sheets out of 5 games. They're defensively solid and the data even backs that up as well. In terms of expected goals conceded, Liverpool have been absolutely incredible, right? Only Manchester City rank higher in terms of expected goals conceded, right? So they've got the second least amount of expected goals conceded. On the eye test they look really solid defensively as well. So I really do like Liverpool defenders as an option on wildcard. And another thing that I love is Trent, right? Trent is just an absolute magician when it comes to creating chances, right? He's so good going forward, and I essentially see Trent as a midfielder that can get you clean sheet points. That's how I look at Trent, right? Because he's so attacking. This man has only got 1 assist so far this season, but he's been so unlucky not to not have more goal contributions so far this season, right? He's been creating a lot of chances and players have been missing, so it's very unfortunate. But all in all, we know what Trent can do. We know what Trent's about. He's about goals, he's about assists. So I just think Trent's a great option, and I like the fixtures as well. I think overall the fixtures are pretty decent for Liverpool. As you guys can see here, man, Wolves in Game Week 6, Palace in Game Week 7, 2 pretty weak sides if we're being honest. Chelsea at home, slightly tougher fixture, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool get a clean sheet there. Arsenal, of course, is going to be tough, but then in 10, 11 and 12 is 3 really good fixtures against, Brighton, Villa and Southampton. So all in all, I think Trent is a good long-term hold if you were to have him. On wildcard. So I do like him. And of course, Konate doesn't have that attacking threat, but like I said, Liverpool being one of the best defensive teams in the league, I don't mind doubling up there. But one thing I want to say as well is that, as you guys will notice, with Rico Lewis, Trent, Konate and Raya, you've literally got your whole defense from the best Premier League teams, right? Arsenal, Liverpool and Man City. And you'd argue that these 3 teams will probably have the best defensive records come the end of the Premier League season. So with that being said, I do like this defense. And of course, Rico Lewis is a risk, 100%, no doubt about it. This man could be rotated, but I think he's worth that risk because going forward, he offers so much. He offers so much and the fixtures are great for Man City. So for that reason, I really do think he is kind of worth that risk, and I'm willing to take that risk with Rico Lewis on a wild card for sure. Now, of course, on the bench, we've got Van den Berg, I think that's how you say his name, from Brentford, and Greaves, right? So Greaves, of course, we know he's going to play, and Van den Berg, so he's played the last 2 games, right? However, it has been in a back 5 system for Brentford, so we don't actually know how nailed on he is, because when he's played, they've played a back 5. So, and of course, because in the last 2 games Brentford played against tough opposition, Tottenham and Man City, they reverted back to a back 5. But against the lesser oppositions, Brentford will play a back 4. So with that being said, we don't actually know if he's nailed on or not. So it's a slightly risky one because when Brentford play back 4, he might be dropped. We don't know yet. So yeah, it's another risk, and you could argue it's a weak point of this team. That's totally fair enough. But as I said, it's my first initial thoughts and nothing is set in stone. But with that being said, guys, we'll move on to the midfield now. And we do have Bukayo Saka, Phil Foden, Bryan Mbeumo and Anton Semenyo. So again, a midfield that I really like and I really love. Bukayo Saka is a lock. I'm not even going to spend time talking about this guy. If you're wildcarded in game week 6, you must have Bukayo Saka. It's as simple as that in my opinion. It's as simple as that in my humble opinion. If you're wildcarded in game week 6, you got to have the man Bukayo Saka. Nailed on, 90-minute man on penalties, 3 amazing fixtures, Leicester, Southampton and Bournemouth coming up. You just have to have Bukayo Saka. We've also gone with Phil Foden, a big differential, and I think Phil Foden will come good. He's barely played this season, and Pep Guardiola has actually said that Foden sort of is ready to you know, play 90 minutes. And yes, he got benched against Arsenal, but I do expect Phil Foden to start you know, picking up his minutes now, start games in the Premier League. I do expect that to happen. And boy, when Foden starts, we know he's going to bang. Well, in my opinion, I think he's going to bang. I'll say that for sure. So I sort of want to get ahead of the curve. You know, part of playing FPLs to sort of instead of like following the crowd and following players that are already doing well, part of FPL is being able to predict who's going to score points. And look, no one's going for Foden. As you guys can see here, only 5.5% ownership. So no one's going for Foden. I want to be sort of first, the first person to bring in Phil Foden for these amazing fixtures. Newcastle in game week 6, brilliant fixture. Newcastle look absolutely terrible. Fulham, Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth, Brighton, Spurs, all fantastic fixtures, and I want Phil Foden for that run. It's as simple as that, right? So that's why I've gone for Phil Foden. I do expect him to start, and again, some of you guys might say it's risky, but for me, I don't think so much. I am pretty confident that Foden does start in game week 6 and onwards. So that's why I've gone for him. And then we got Bryan Mbeumo. Now, Bryan Mbeumo for me, again, just like Saka, an absolute must-have on wildcard. If you don't have this man on wildcard, what on earth are you doing? No, I'm only joking. It's your team. You can do whatever you want. But in my opinion, I think you just have to have Bryan Mbeumo. It's as simple as that. Again, the long-term fixtures for Brentford are absolutely fantastic. And look, Bryan Mbeumo, he's the 90-minute man. He's on penalties. We know he's going to start week in, week out. And generally speaking, he's a quality player. I know Brentford did. I know Wissa did get injured for Brentford. And, you know, some people may say that might affect Bryan Mbeumo because Wissa and Mbeumo worked so well together. They had a great partnership. But Bryan Mbeumo is a quality player within himself. So I don't think, you know, he over-relied on Wissa too much, you know. Bryan Mbeumo has got ability himself, and he showed that in the last game. You know, what a brilliant goal that was against Tottenham. So yeah, for me, look, Bryan Mbeumo, quality player, 90 minutes on penalties, will get you goals, Premier League proven. I mean, what? Yeah, just go ahead and get Bryan Mbeumo. It's that simple. So yeah, that's why I've got him, because I'm wildcarding. I want this man. And then we've obviously got Anton Semenyo. This is a short-term punt, guys, all right? I want to make that very clear. Semenyo is a short-term punt, and look, we'll be going through the transfer plans with this team as well later on. But yeah, Semenyo is a short-term punt. Southampton at home and Leicester away in game week 6 and 7. For me, yeah, great fixtures, absolutely great fixtures. And look, Semenyo's done pretty decent so far this Premier League season, right? He's got you know, 8 points in game week 1, 5 points in game week 2, and 6 points in game week 3. And then of course he blanked in the two tough fixtures against Chelsea and Liverpool. So look, I think Semenyo can do really well in game week 6 and 7. And yeah, playing against 2 relegation teams on a wild card, why not take that punt? You know, it's a fun pick and it's a high potential pick. So that's why I've gone for Semenyo. And on the bench, we've actually got someone that not many people have been speaking about. We've got Dibbling from Southampton. He scored his first goal against Ipswich and looks to be like a pretty decent player. Could have got an assist, an FPL assist anyway, against Man United. You know, he won the penalty that Cameron Archer did miss. So he's been involved for Southampton, looking pretty tidy, looking pretty decent. So at 4.5 million, I don't mind him as a sort of bench rotation player. So yeah, that's the midfield. Let's go ahead and move on to the front three. As you guys can see, we've got Erling Haaland, Kai Havertz and Dominic Calvert-Lewin as the front three on this wildcard draft. And it's a front three that I really like. Of course, I've gone with Erling Haaland. Look, I've had Erling Haaland since game week 1 and he's been absolutely fantastic so far this Premier League season. So there's no way I'm going without Erling Haaland on a wildcard, right? He's a proven goal scorer, a bona fide world-class elite striker, guarantees you goals. Look, yeah, nothing more needs to be said on Erling Haaland, right? The fixtures for Man City are also really, really good, and realistically, if you've got Erling Haaland, you'd want to captain him most weeks, and as I said, man, he's a man that guarantees goals. So I'm definitely going to go with Erling Haaland on wildcard. Now, Kai Havertz as well is another pick that I really, really love. Some people were debating, who to go for on wildcard, double Arsenal defense or double Arsenal attack. Well, for me personally, I want to go for that double Arsenal attack, man. I want to chase the high upside pick with the double Arsenal attack against, weak opposition, Leicester, Southampton and Bournemouth for the next 3. So that's why I do like Kai Havertz, and I think he can get you goals and assists as well. So yeah, for me, I think he's a great pick. And now some people may say because of Odegaard's injury, there is a small chance that he could play midfield, which is totally fair and honest. Like, that is a good point to make, but for me, I have a feeling that he will continue to play in that number 9 role. We saw it today. He was playing number 9 alongside Trossard, what it looked like, and also against Spurs, he was in that number 9 role and Trossard was in midfield. So I do think Arteta knows that when Havertz plays up front, that's when you get the best out of Kai Havertz for Arsenal. So I think with that being said, Havertz will play in that number 9 role in the striker position. So for that reason, I love him as an option. And then we've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who is a good set and forget long-term option in my opinion. On penalties, great fixtures for the long term. So yeah, that's why I've gone with Calvert-Lewin, to be honest with you guys. A good cheap enabler in my opinion. So look, overall, this team is good in my opinion. I really like it. I feel like it's well balanced, strong in defense, strong in attack, and strong in midfield as well. And look, for me, I feel like the majority of my team is from the best teams in the Premier League, right? 2 Liverpool players, 3 Arsenal players, 3 Man City players, and Brian Mbeumo. I think the core and the base of this team is really strong in my opinion. But with that being said, guys, we are going to now have a look at some future transfers that I'd make with this team, right? So we're going to head over to planfpl.com and have a look at how this team would line up for the next sort of 6 to 7 game weeks. So yeah, let's get into that. Alright guys, so we are on planfpl.com to have a look at how our team would shape up for future game weeks. So of course, this is the wildcard team for game week 6, but let's move on to game week 7. So for this week, with this team, we would just simply roll the transfer, right? The fixtures look really good for everyone in this team. So for that reason, we just roll the transfer, right? Really good defense, goalkeeper, really good midfield, and really good front 3 as well. So I do like the team for game week 7. We've also got 2 free transfers as well, like I said. So look, let's move on to game week 8. Now for game week 8, this is where the transfers would be made, and this is exactly what I personally would do, or I'm considering doing, right? So obviously we've got Semenyo against Arsenal, right? And that's not really ideal. So I'd want to take out Semenyo for maybe someone like Smith Rowe, right? Because look, from game week 8 onwards, I don't think the fixtures are too bad, and Smith Rowe has shown that he can get you goals, man. He really can. So I think these fixtures here, Villa, Everton, Brentford, Palace and Wolves, a decent set of fixtures, right? So yeah, Smith Rowe in for Semenyo. And because I got 0.1 in the bank, I could just do that. However, I do plan to actually make some more changes, and I'd actually consider taking out Kai Havertz. Even though he's playing Bournemouth away, I'd consider taking out Kai Havertz for Dominic Solanke, who's got West Ham at home, and a really good fixture for Solanke in my opinion. Spurs are one of the best attacking teams in the Premier League, and Solanke playing in that number 9 role in the Ange system, I like a lot. So that's one option. And then with my third transfer, I could actually take out Konate for Pedro Porro, right, who gives you that attacking threat. Of course, Spurs defense isn't the best, I'm not going to lie. However, Porro, in my opinion, the second best defender for attack and return. So for that reason, I'd consider making that transfer. And that's what I could do with my free transfers, right? Of course, I don't have to take out Kai Havertz. However, if I take out Kai Havertz for Solanke, it allows me to get rid of Konate for Porro, right? So that's the idea behind that. Now for game week 9, again, I'd probably make one free transfer, and that would be to simply triple up on Spurs, possibly, right? I think I would consider this, but again, I wouldn't have to make a transfer, but again, this is just sort of a possibility for Son, right? Saka for Son. which is a good move I could do, and he's got Palace away and some really nice fixtures. I think Spurs fixtures are really good, right? So from game week 8, obviously they got West Ham, and then game week 9 where I'd bring Son in, they've got Palace away, and then Aston Villa at home, then Ipswich at home, then City, then Fulham, then Bournemouth, then Chelsea, then Southampton. So really good long-term fixtures, which is why I do like the Spurs assets, and in particular Dominic Solanke and maybe even a Heung-min Son Aldo as well. So yeah, that's what I would do for game week 9. And then for game week 10, I'd roll the transfer because the team looks pretty good. And of course, this is all assuming that Lewis is starting these games, and I think that's where that's like a weak point about this team. But let's just say Lewis gets benched this week against Bournemouth. I've got Greaves on the bench, right? I've got Greaves, who we know is going to play and who has a good fixture against Leicester. So I could play Greaves that week, just in case Lewis does get benched. But all in all, the team looks really strong for game week 10. Like really strong. Porro, Trent, Lewis, really good. And then a midfield 4 with great fixtures, and then a front 3 of good fixtures as well. And then for game week 11, I'd roll the transfer again because, guys, the team looks absolutely fantastic once again. We've got Trent there with great fixtures. And then, yeah, Raya in goal, a good back 3, a good midfield 4, and a good front 3 as well. But as I said, man, Rico Lewis, he might not play all these games, and that's the issue with this team. So I might make a few tweaks. I'm not 100% sure, but in game week 12, for example, this is where I'd probably make some changes. Maybe I could take out Oporo and go double Arsenal defense for Gabriel because he got free transfers. And then I could maybe take out Foden, you know, who's got Tottenham and Liverpool in the next 2 games. Yeah, Foden has Tottenham and Liverpool in the next 2 there, so I could take out Foden in game week 12 for like a Madueke, right? Because I think Chelsea from game week 12 have some really good fixtures. So this is what I plan to do. This is what I've got written down. Foden to Madueke, and then that frees up enough money for me to take out Van den Berg for a Chelsea defender, for example, like Colwell, right? That's just one example, right? So I could bench Rico Lewis, and that's how my team would look for game week 12. And again, looks pretty solid. I don't mind the 2 Spurs attackers against Man City, if I'm totally honest. I don't mind it. Son, really good record against Spurs as well. So look, I'm not going to go on, but this is sort of what I do with this team, with my Mohamed Salah draft, right? So with this team, that's what I would do. I think it looks pretty strong. I might make a few tweaks, but definitely the core of this team will stay the same. Like Saka, you know, well, assuming I go without Salah, if I decide to go without Salah for this draft, the core of the team will stay the same. So Trent would stay, Foden would stay, Saka would stay, Havertz, Haaland, Calvert-Lewin, Semenyo, Raya. So it's only 1 or 2 minor changes that I would make, but that's the plan for my no Salah draft at the moment. But let's have a look at my Salah draft, right? I'll show you guys my Salah team, and we'll have a quick look at future transfer plans with that team. All right, guys, so this is the team that I've made that has Mohamed Salah in the team, right? It's a Haaland, Salah, Saka draft. Now, the difference in the 2 teams is that this one has Evanilson instead of Havertz up front, and it's got Gabriel instead of Trent, and I've also got Collins on the bench. So a little bit better bench cover with this team. So Collins can come in for Rico Lewis if he does get benched and doesn't play, for example. But yeah, that's sort of like the only really difference. And we got Murillo in there from Nottingham Forest as well. So all in all, I like this team, right? I actually do like this team, and I'm still deciding on which one to go for. You guys can let me know down below in the comments which one you prefer, this Mohamed Salah draft or the one without Mohamed Salah. But of course, it doesn't have Foden, doesn't have Trent, doesn't have Havertz, but we've actually got double Bournemouth attack for their 2 good fixtures against Southampton and Leicester, which is an interesting one. Yeah, a really interesting one. Evanilson is like super lowly owned, so it's a good differential punt in my opinion, and it could work out. But yeah, minor tweaks to this draft compared to the other one. But yeah, let's have a look at what I would do in the future game weeks, right, with this team. So in game week 7, again, we'd roll because the team looks pretty solid. The only change I would make is to bring in Collins in place of Murillo. And then, yeah, look at that. Team looks really strong. Double Bournemouth attack against Leicester, Calvert-Lewin against Newcastle, Haaland against Fulham, Salah against Palace, Saka against Southampton, and Bremo against Wolves, and then a back 3 with, you know, good home fixtures as well. So that's what I would do in game week 7. We just roll. And then for game week 8, again, this is where the transfers come into place, and it's actually similar transfers to what I do in the other draft that doesn't have Mo Salah. So in this draft, what we do is we take out the double Bournemouth because they got hard fixtures coming up, and we also take out probably Mohamed Salah, right? So yeah, the idea is to put in Solanke once again, Son instead of Mohamed Salah, and then we also go for Smith Rowe once again, right? So that would be sort of the plan, an idea with this team. So we'd only have Salah for Palace away and for Wolves away and Crystal Palace away, which isn't too bad. And then we'd move on to Son, who's got great fixtures. So they're the transfers that I would make in game week 8. I'd then also bring Murillo back into the starting 11. And do this, right? And look, I like it. I do like this plan as well. It's a really, really strong plan, in my opinion. And now we move on to game week 9, right? So game week 9, Saka's got some tough fixtures coming up: Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea. For Bukayo Saka in game week 9, right? Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea. Yeah. So look, I think I'd move off him in game week 9, and we go to someone like Phil Foden, right? So we get Phil Foden in the team, and again, it's looking pretty similar to my old draft, just a few differences, right? A few differences with this Salah draft compared to the one without Salah. So that's what we do in game week 9, and then in game week 10, yeah, in game week 10, I mean, there is an argument to be made. You could bench Gabriel, but look, Gabriel just seems to do really right. In fact, Gabriel seems to get a lot of his goals in the big games as well. So look, you could start Collins at home to Ipswich and bench Gabriel, but yeah, I'll leave that up to you guys. You guys let me know what you would do in that game week. But yeah, we move on now to game week 10, and in game week 10, we got 1.8 mil in the bank, so we could take out Greaves and actually go to Pedro Porro, for example, right? That's something we could do. Pedro Porro, a decent fixture at home to Aston Villa, and then I'd probably bench Murillo or Rico Lewis, one of those two players. But yeah, that's what I would do for game week 10, for example. Now again, I'm not going to go on and on and on for too long, but that's sort of an idea of what I would do with this Salah draft. Well, Salah for the first, for Salah for game week 7 and game week 8. After that, we get rid of him, right? So yeah, that's what I would do if I started off with Mohamed Salah. Now, I'm not sure if I want to do that, but I do like it as an option as well, because I still can pivot to the Spurs assets, which I really, really like. So yeah, it's an interesting one. It's one that I've got to think about. But look, that's where I'm at the moment, guys. Right, that is where I'm at. It's a lot to digest. It's a lot to take in. But that's gonna be it for today's video, guys. If you did enjoy, make sure you guys do smash a big thumbs up on the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, I'm gonna continue to tinker with my wildcard draft because I need to get this right. But nonetheless, I hope you did enjoy. And yeah, guys, I will catch you in the next video. But until then, I'm out. Peace.